Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Janelle, and we are doing the part 2 of the decision in my home buying series. If you have not seen the first video, I have linked the playlist down below so that you guys can go ahead and watch it. I do apologize if my eyes are all over the place. I wear glasses and I literally can't see anything, but there's a huge glare when I'm wearing my glasses in this video, so I did take them off. And then I do apologize. I have my little cheat sheet right here to go over what we're going to be talking about today. So in the last video, we talked about making the decision to want to buy a house, your reasons for wanting to buy a house, where you want to buy a house, in terms of location and job opportunities, schooling, amenities and things of that sort. And I talked about the reasons why we personally wanted to buy our house and where we wanted to buy our house and why we chose the location that we did. And right before I was done with the video, I talked about whether or not you should build a new home or if you should buy a pre-existing home. And granted, that is your opinion or your preference on what you feel is best for you, but I'm just going to talk about a little bit of the pros and cons of buying a new home and a little bit of pros and cons with buying an older home, what we chose to do, different types of builders, what to kind of look for, and so forth. So let's get on into it. So we're going to talk about, as a first-time home buyer, for me, some of you guys may not be a first-time home buyer. This might be your second, third, or fourth home. We chose to build our home, and there were different factors in the reason why we wanted to build our home. And that was because I am one, like I said before, I am very, very picky, and I want things a certain way, and I want things to be the way that I envision it and not somebody else. And I also just didn't want to have to do the work later on, especially if I was going to build. And that was the reason why I chose to build, so I don't have all these bigger projects to do later. I also just put into perspective that this time around, especially, we don't have a lot in savings in terms of buying an older home and then having a whole lot of money to go in and do renovations, take up carpet, maybe repainting and all of that stuff. So it just wasn't something that I was interested in doing this time around. But also with that as well too is that as a first-time home buyer, I think about wanting to make sure that everything that I have has a warranty. I know what was going on with the home when I originally bought it, and there was just a particular area and things that I wanted to do. And also on the financial side of things, it's a lot easier when you go and buy a home to get a lot more incentives from the seller than it is if you're going to buy a pre-existing home. And with a pre-existing home, nothing is wrong with that, you guys. I think there are great pre-existing homes out there, and it just depends on your budget and how much money you have saved and where you're buying it, what the tax rate is and stuff like that. And here where we're living right now, a lot of these new homes that are being built are in our area where the tax rate is still fairly, well, our tax rate is a little high, but still fairly decent to where you want to kind of buy into that market, because you know that in about 5 or 6 years, if you do decide to sell your house, you're going to make some bank off of it. So those were just some of the things that I kind of thought about when we thought about whether we wanted to buy a pre-existing home or a new home. And there's some pros and cons to buying a new home versus a older home. And I'm going to start off with the older home because I don't know too much about older homes in terms of everything, since I am buying a brand new home. But I feel like the pros though about buying an older home, depending just on how old it is sometimes you can have a lot less issues because those things have worked itself out. They were built a lot better in my experience or understanding. So you have less structural issues. They seem to be a little bit more sound. They stand a lot longer than some of these homes. Some other pros about buying an older home is you get a lot more character. A lot of these newer homes, they're all built up, factory based, and everybody's houses look the same, and you don't really get that character. So you tell somebody to come and visit you and they're like, which house is yours? They all look the same. Everything looks the same inside. So I feel like with older homes, you do get that character that you're looking for. Some of those like weird different types of like setups and layouts that they used to do back in the day that they don't do now. For me, I love an open concept floor plan. Not everybody likes that, and I think in older homes you kind of get some of those types of like different floor plans that you don't normally see, that brings once again a lot of character to a home. And then I just think one of my biggest like cons to buying an older home is you also just don't know what you're getting until you've got it. You can do an inspection, and I do just want to say that like I'm not an expert on this. This is just my opinion, but depending on who your inspector is, it could go good or it could go bad, and you just never know until you actually move into the house. And you could get a house that's not good, or there were a lot of issues when the house was previously built, and now it falls on you to get those things fixed, or there's water issues or stuff like that with like the land and different things like that. So you never know what you're getting yourself into. Normally though, when you go through the process, those things are normally something you have to go through and make sure that the seller clears those things before you move in. But every state is different, and I don't know how every state works. So those are just kind of things that I would say you look out for. And also, if you're a first-time home buyer and you're really trying to save and you don't have a lot of savings and stuff like that, sometimes buying an older home doesn't give you that advantage of maybe getting all that you can out of the seller. You do have to understand that the seller is just like us. They want as much money as they can get to take on to maybe their new home or retirement or whatever it is that they may be doing. So they're not always so willing to cover all of your closing costs as well too, on top of you having to pay for your inspections and all of these other different things that you as a buyer are responsible for when you're purchasing a home. So I don't have a lot of negative things or positive things to say about a older home because I'm not really in the process of buying an older home. But if you guys have any tips or pros and cons about buying an older home, please comment down below and tell me, because I would really love to know. I'm just talking about some of the bigger things that like I kind of thought of when I was thinking about whether or not we wanted to buy a older home or a newer home. Now on to buying a newer home. There are definitely pros and cons, and they almost are the same as buying an older home, because when we talk about the cons to buying a home, you don't know what you're getting either. You can still get shoddy work in terms of, how the builder and who their contractors were when they were building these things. You could still move in and 3 months later your AC goes out or your roof is leaking and all of that stuff too. I think those are still cons to buying a new home. I think also though, with the understanding of buying a new home, is just because it's brand new doesn't mean that things won't work or things won't break. I think it's more so that if they do, you know that you're covered. You know that there are different warranties and things out there to help you get those things fixed without having to come hugely out of your pocket. And I think that is definitely the appeal for me when I talk about having to pay for your water heater or your AC. Ooh. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I'm yawning right now. The appeal when buying a new home and saying that you don't want to spend $5,000 for a new water heater and stuff like that. So I think that is still part of a con, and I think it's just a con in terms of buying a home in general. And then another con kind of comes into terms with your builder, and this was something that I didn't do until just recently, but researching your builders. There are so many different types of builders out there, and some of them only work in certain areas, and The builder that we chose to go with, they have the worst reviews known to man, you guys. It is crazy. And I almost got like a sinking feeling, thinking about, could this potentially happen to my house? But then I had to just really read the reviews and see exactly what they were saying, and knowing that like I'm doing my due diligence as well too, which is something I'll talk about in just a little bit. But that can also be a con too, is going with a builder that probably doesn't build very well, or the area that you're building in, they just don't have great contractors and stuff like that. So you end up moving into a house that doesn't last very long, or there's just an issue every which way. So that's also a con as well too. But the pros about buying a brand new house is it's a brand new, you guys. You guys get to pick out your floor plan. You guys get to pick out a little bit of your customization. You get to watch your house being built and be along that process to better understand what it is to be a home buyer, which I think everybody should get to experience at some point in their lives. And just the appeal of getting into a newer neighborhood, and just building in a new community and maybe getting some incentives off of that. And with incentives, builders love to give away stuff just depending on what time of the year it is and what they're trying to do, especially if they're like closing out a community, or they're just starting a community. They tend to give out really good deals, and for us, we got a really, really good deal on our new construction home in our subdivision. And so those are some of like the pros and cons in getting a brand new home versus an older home, and vice versa and stuff like that. So I'm not going to get like too deep into those, because I feel like everybody has their different opinions about what is a pro or what is a con for them. So for both the older home and for a brand new home, if you guys have a pro or a con about either of them, please link them in the comments down below. I would love to hear what you guys are thinking about that. So now back to building a new home and talking about builders. So like I was saying, there are many different builders that build across the US, and some of them build in multiple states. Some builders don't. And like I said, when I was decided to go and read the reviews after we started building, my heart sunk just a little bit, because I was reading all of these things about people talking about they had this kind of damage, or this wasn't working, and different stuff like that. And like I said, I had time to take in those reviews and really just understand what they were saying before I just said like, oh my gosh, maybe we should pull out of this and stuff like that. We have been watching our house being built and asked questions and got things fixed during the process of our house. So I don't feel that bad, but I'm also learning from some of those things that people are saying, because of some of the reviews. People were saying like, let's just say like their granite counters, were dented in or broken, or the cabinets weren't good and stuff like that. And that is very important, you guys, that when you do your walkthrough, that you're not only looking at just like whether the house looks like it's together, but some of those minor things too, but also other things that you don't think about, which is what me and my partner talked about whenever you're buying a new home, is when you go into that inspection, like make sure if you have more than one bathroom, make sure those tubs, those sinks, the shower and everything, they're all running like at the same time, to see if there are any issues with plumbing, turn on the water heater, the AC or the heater and stuff like that, and make sure that they're all running. You don't need to finish your walkthrough in 20 minutes. You should be in there for at least, to me, an hour, just to make sure, because it's brand new, right? And it needs some time to break into, it's starting to work. Not everything that you get that's brand new just starts working automatically. It needs some time to get itself together. And you're not always going to find some of those issues on your walkthrough, but I think it does lessen some of the issues you may have later on. So just depending, I know some of the bigger home builders like KB Homes, DR Horton, Lennar and stuff like that, they cover a wide different ranges in the US, and then there's like smaller places, I think like Clayton Homes and stuff like that. It just depends on what region you're in. So definitely do your research on your builders, and keep in mind that although many people have issues with the actual builder, it's really going to come down to who your subcontractors are and who your superintendent is for your specific area and for that region, because they're the ones that really determine what your house is going to look like. So if they are shoddy people, the work and the contractors that they pick up are also going to be shoddy. And the good thing for us is that there aren't any bad reviews for our area. And from what I understand, our superintendents who's over like the project are really good, and we've walked into many other people's houses and stuff like that and seen, you know, that they're happy with their product and stuff like that. So I think that I am okay with what we're doing, but that is something that you definitely want to look into, and making sure that you're getting the best out of your home buyer experience. And if you're not, like, don't be afraid to back out and reevaluate what's important to you, and if you have time to wait or go to a different builder or a different area where you feel like you're being taken care of and attended to. So that is kind of the overall understanding of making the decision, right? Is making the decision to buy a home, to know why you want to buy a home, what is the appeal for you in terms of buying a home, and not being peer pressured into buying a home because that's what everybody else is doing. And then choosing whether or not you want to buy a new home or an old home, and the reasons why, you know, how they benefit you or how they don't benefit you. If you're buying a new home, making sure that you're picking the best builder for your needs and your wants, and who's gonna attend to what you want and what you need, and not being afraid, you guys, to back out. I know that in the process of buying a home, things may seem rough, or you may be unhappy with stuff and you think that you just need to go through with that because you're already in the process. No, back out. Make sure that you are happy with what you're getting, because keep in mind, it's not an apartment. If you're living in an apartment, you can't just get up and leave again. This is a 15 to 30-year mortgage that you are committing yourself to. And if you're buying a home, whether it's old or new, you want to make sure that you're happy, and that what you need, those needs are being met, and that you're happy. You get your wants, or a good amount of your wants, and you're getting your needs in that process. So this is going to conclude the first part of the decision. In my next video, we're going to be going into the process, which is a very long, tedious process. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, comment down below, and if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, go ahead and click that subscribe button. I would love for you guys to join, and I'll see you guys in the next one.